On the vast ocean, Biru's wild sprint sailed across the great waters. It bore witness to a fair share of conflicts and disagreements, inevitably surrendering to the unfathomable ocean. With disastrous tragedies, growing tensions, bursts of energy, and a great deal of excitement, this is the Age of Exploration! Hello everyone, welcome to Taiwan Bar. Today we're going to delve into an epic story on how European vessels conquered the world. Long before the Europeans, Africans, Arabians, Chinese had enjoyed the ocean, out of the blue, the Europeans ushered in the Age of Discovery. The world became more connected because of their conquests. But why did Spain and Portugal decide to explore the unfathomable and seemingly ominous vast waters of the ocean? There's no harm in running along the seashore, soaking under the sun, or catching some fish, but to go on sail for months, you gotta have faith in a higher power. With the state of European maritime technology at the time, they were unable to pinpoint their exact location, and the wooden ships would rot when soaked in the water for too long. With a sudden storm, the boat would fall apart. What's more, the fridge wasn't invented yet, so the food would rot. Basically, everything would rot. Setting sail was far from wise. This is suicide! Why on earth did Europeans take such a huge risk without the help of GPS and combustion engines and decide to sail around the world? This is how the story goes. In the 15th century, sometime in the 1400s, the two countries on the far left side of Europe, located in the Iberian Peninsula, rushed towards the sea and ushered in the Age of Discovery. For most of the Europeans back then, the edge of the Iberian Peninsula was regarded the edge of the earth. But for the marginalized Portugal and Spain, the edge of the Iberian Peninsula was where the ocean starts. These two countries, despite all the difficulties, managed to travel to India, America, and of course to Taiwan, aka Formosa. Their motive was undoubtedly ambitious. In order to gain a better understanding of their motive, we can start by gaining an understanding of their economics and politics. First, in terms of economics, aside from silk and porcelain, there was something even more lucrative in the East. What was the one thing that Europeans were craving so much that they were willing to sacrifice their lives for? It's the extremely rare, exclusive, and luxurious legendary spices! That's right! Spices were important, like the black pepper we use in restaurants. How are we supposed to live without pepper? Huh? Although pepper isn't scarce anymore these days, but it was back then. Aside from black pepper, spices such as cinnamon, cloves, and cardamom originated from the ever-mysterious Spice Islands located in Southeast Asia. Spices have a history so long that it can be traced back to ancient Egypt. The applications are endless: witchcraft, preservation, makeup, medical treatment, cooking, even as poison. Spices are so versatile that the Europeans treasured it dearly. Spices became a rare and precious commodity. But why did the Europeans need it so badly? Kids, you may have heard that there were no refrigerators or preservatives back then, so spices were used to preserve food. To be more precise, it was used to mask the smell of rotten food. That's why spices were so important. It still stinks! But this claim has been challenged by many. Spices from the East were expensive. Only the rich could afford such a luxury. Fresh meat could always be purchased, so why was there a need to use spices to preserve food? All in all, there were different theories explaining why late medieval Europe was so obsessed with spices. Historians in the past decades have yet to find an answer. Okay, back to the topic. Spices couldn't be shipped directly to Europe. The spices passed through several hands before they could arrive at the Mediterranean Sea. Then Italian merchants from Venice and Genoa came along, and the spices passed through even more hands before finally making its way to the European continent. Of course, the prices of spices were sky high! With Portugal and Spain at the edge of the Atlantic Ocean, they had no way to be included in the Mediterranean trade market. So the mystical allure of these eastern spices and commercial interests urged the periphery countries to venture beyond. They were determined to conquer the ocean. Portugal, with the help of Muslims, gained valuable knowledge from all over the world, including ancient Greek wisdom, which was long forgotten by the Europeans themselves. Inspired by the knowledge, Prince Henry the Navigator established the world's first ever school of navigation. Not only that, there was also an astronomical observatory, a library, a shipyard, and more. Prince Henry got it all covered. These constructions laid a solid foundation for Portugal's later hegemony over the seas. They put in tremendous effort to understand nautical science, including cartography, navigation, and shipbuilding. With all these skills maxed out, the once teeny-tiny country of Portugal finally made its way to the Atlantic Ocean. After a few voyages, Portugal eventually arrived at the legendary Spice Islands. They held the route to the east as a commercial secret. Aside from money, there was another incentive for Europe to explore the ocean, and that was political interests. Before the 15th century, politics and religion often went hand in hand. They were deeply intertwined. Christianity at the time had little influence over Europe. Islam was the dominant religion. The Iberian Peninsula had long been under the influence of Islam. Thus, it was critical and the end goal for Europeans to uphold Christianity and suppress Islam. It was the grand scheme of the Europeans. As early as the 12th century, Europeans believed that in the Far East lived a missionary named John. He wasn't just a powerful and influential Christian monarch. Under his rule, he built a prosperous Christian nation. The legacy of Christianity could be restored if Europeans could only locate this Christian paradise in the Far East. Reclaim the Iberian Peninsula! Fend off the Islamic forces! The temptation of the benefits that came with the acquisition of spices and the reinstatement of Christianity was too great to reject. The boatloads of spices and money that Portugal brought back from their ventures caused their neighbor Spain to start salivating what was garnered. Portugal had control over the eastern route, so Spain decided to venture westward and sent Columbus out to search for new routes. Hold up, there's something you need to know. A lot of people thought that Columbus was the one who discovered the New World and debunked the myth that the Earth was flat. We're all familiar with his story. He believed that the Earth was round and that he could arrive in India from the other side of the world. But no one believed him. The naysayers insisted that the world was flat, that you would fall off the edge of the world. Even the almighty seafaring country Portugal said, "No way!" Eventually, with the help of the Spanish royalty, Columbus discovered the New World and reshaped everyone's understanding of geography. This story basically puts Columbus on a pedestal. But for folks in the 15th century, the fact that the Earth is round was already basic knowledge. As early as the 3rd century BC, the Greeks had already unveiled that the Earth was round and had even calculated the circumference of the Earth. Portugal, a country with the most advanced seafaring technology, they couldn't be unaware that the Earth was round, could they? Then why did they refuse to invest in Columbus's journey to circumnavigate the world? Because the Portuguese thought that Columbus was too naive and that Columbus underestimated the size of the Earth. Columbus believed that he could arrive in Asia in a snap, but the Portuguese scholars knew that with the current state of their seafaring technology, it was impossible to cross such a vast ocean. Theoretically, the Portuguese scholars were right. Columbus was a bit too naive, but he was blessed by Lady Luck. In the middle of nowhere, he landed on an unexpected land. An adverted accident carved his name in history. He arrived in America, which he mistook as India. That day was regarded as Spain's national day, October the 12th, to commemorate the day Columbus discovered a new world that actually already had inhabitants. From then on, Spain earned tons and tons of gold and silver and became a part of the nouveau riche overnight, amassing a fortune that would be used by its successors for more than a century. With all that being said, we often describe this era as the Age of Discovery or the Age of Exploration. This is from the Europeans' perspective, not recognizing people who had arrived in America long before Columbus set foot there. For example, coins from ancient Rome and Carthage were found in America. These pieces of archaeological evidence prove that Africans and Phoenicians had made their way to America hundreds of years ago and had a significant influence on the local culture. Columbus had brought unprecedented shockwaves to both sides of the Atlantic. He was a brave voyager, but also a profit-seeking colonizer. His conquest of Haiti led to genocide and slavery in exchange for great wealth, similar to the genocide that the Dutch conducted in Mado in 1635. Europe's oceanic conquest had ripple effects all over the world and brought upon countless tragedies, but at the same time it also served as the impetus for colonialism. That's all for today. I'm a bit thirsty after all that talking. Let me finish this vodka. See you next time. Prost!